Leaders' questions under Standing Order 29. Following Deputy Micheál Martin, please.
Taoiseach, we learned from the Susan Mitchell in the Sunday Business Report, Post on Sunday, that the government had hired private investigators to spy on hospital consultants as part of a strategy to fight a pay claim pursued by these consultants that is currently before the High Court. Now, as part of a government strategy, it seems that government ministers or their departments authorised the hiring of private investigators to follow up to about 10 consultants, to place them under surveillance in their daily lives, to try and collect and gather evidence against them in relation to alleged non-compliance with their contracts. And at a Cabinet meeting appeared on February 14, 2017, the Government decided on a strategy to defend these cases and specified that non-compliance by consultants with the contract should be a particular line of defence. When senior HSE management objected to this practice and heard about it, they tried to stop it. Their solicitor wrote to the Chief State Solicitor's Office stating that this was inappropriate. However, the Department of Health wrote back saying that this had the backing of 3 government departments, Finance, Deeper and Health, and saying that the surveillance must continue and that any evidence on non-compliance must be gathered. Selective lead cases involving the High Court case the consultants involved were focused on. Now, Taoiseach, I believe, and it's my sincerely held view, irrespective of the issues on the pay side, that this sets a very sinister and dangerous precedent. Ministers and their departments should not be ordering surveillance on citizens or indeed on employees of the state. It is wrong and a potential abuse of power, without question. Who's next? Will it be ESB workers who are pursuing a pay claim? Will it be bus drivers and rail drivers? Anybody else out there who's pursuing a pay claim? Are they fair game? And I'd ask you, Taoiseach, if you could answer, would you first of all confirm that the Cabinet did decide on such a strategy and were aware of the strategy involved the hiring of private investigators? Do you accept, Taoiseach, that the constitutional right to privacy of these consultants may have been breached? Can you guarantee, Taoiseach, that patients' data was not breached? How is one to check on-site activity as to whether it's public or private without potentially breaching the files? Was a contract entered into between the departments concerned or its agencies with the private investigators or not? What guidelines and what protocols govern the behaviour of these private investigators while they carried out this surveillance on doctors, which was unknown to them? And Taoiseach, I would appreciate very specific answers to those specific questions that I've asked, and to, in particular, confirm whether the ministers authorised and were aware of this surveillance.
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach. Deputy Martin.
Were the 2 ministers aware and did they authorise it? Could you give me a straight answer when I ask very specific questions? I didn't ask about the pay claim. I'm aware of it. And if you'd consulted the report by the Director of the HSE to the Health Committee in December of last year, you would have seen fully his position on the public-private split. The question I asked, Taoiseach, is this. You did approve a strategy. Were the ministers aware and did they authorise this? Because you're fundamentally wrong. Are you aware of the Data Protection Act? Do you think the government and ministers can just wilfully violate that act and ignore it? I asked you, had any legal contract been entered into with the private investigators? I asked that for a specific reason. Because such a contract would govern, at least give some attempt to ensure compliance with the Data Protection Act. Are you aware of Justice Herbert's comments in the High Court about covert surveillance of employees in Sweeney versus Ballantyre Community School, where he said it amounted to malicious harassment of the individual concerned? The Data Protection Commissioner has articulated quite significantly on this issue over the last 2 to 3 years. And you're cavalier, and you obviously said it to the Irish Times on Monday, this idea because RTE does it, government can do it.
Thank you, Deputy.
So is the new government's ethical code, whatever media is going to do, we can do it as well? Social welfare inspectors are governed by a legal code, by successive statutory provision over the years, governing their activities, balancing the rights of citizens versus the rights of the state. I think I want honesty from you, Taoiseach, and straight up.
Thank you, Deputy. Your time is up now.
It's unacceptable, irrespective of who's involved. And you may be taking the view, as you often do, consultants are fair game. We can take chances, risks with their constitutional rights, so nobody will worry. Nobody will worry about consultants, because we all know, etc., etc., even though Liam Wood says the opposite, by the way, in his testimony to the Oireachtas Committee. But if you start setting a precedent on one group of citizens, other citizens are vulnerable and
Deputy,
open territory.
Time is up,
you cannot play fast and loose, Taoiseach, with this constitution or constitution, and you cannot play fast and loose with people's rights under the Data Protection Act. I asked about the safety right or the data protection of patients, and I got no assurances back from you on that.
Taoiseach.